The August heat pressed down on Los Angeles like a punishment, making the black non-slip shoes feel like instruments of torture against Elena Rodriguez's swollen feet. She'd been on shift at Casa Mariposa for 6 hours, and her lower back screamed with every step. But she kept her smile professional as she balanced a tray of appetizers destined for table 7. 32 weeks pregnant. 8 months of carrying a daughter who kicked insistently against her ribs whenever Elena bent to pick up dropped silverware or refill water glasses. 8 months of pretending she was just another waitress, struggling to make rent in an expensive city, when the truth was so much more complicated. The lunch rush had finally thinned, leaving only a scattering of business meetings and late diners in Casa Mariposa's elegant dining room. Afternoon sunlight streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows, catching the crystal chandeliers and casting rainbow prisms across white tablecloths. Elena had designed this space 3 years ago, had chosen every fixture and finish, had poured her heart into creating something beautiful. Now she served food in it, and nobody knew the difference. She adjusted her grip on the tray, feeling her daughter shift and roll. "Just a few more hours, mija," she whispered. "Then we can go home and put our feet up." The hostess stand phone rang, and Elena heard Jessica's cheerful greeting followed by a reservation confirmation. Table for 2 at 7:30, anniversary dinner. Elena made a mental note to have the kitchen prepare something special. Maybe send out complimentary champagne. Those details mattered at Casa Mariposa. They were part of what made her restaurants special. Her restaurants, plural. 47 properties across 6 states, from intimate bistros to sprawling resort hotels. The Rodriguez Hospitality Group, founded by her grandfather in 1964, expanded by her father, and inherited by Elena when a car accident took both her parents 4 years ago. She'd been 25 years old and suddenly responsible for a $340 million empire. That's when she'd met Marcus Webb. Elena pushed the memory away and focused on delivering appetizers to table 7, an older couple celebrating their 40th wedding anniversary. She set down plates of seared scallops and heirloom tomato bruschetta with practiced efficiency. "Can I get you anything else?" she asked, her smile genuine despite the ache in her feet. "Just the check when we're ready, dear," the wife said kindly. Then, with obvious concern, "Should you be working in your condition? You look ready to pop." Elena's hand moved instinctively to her belly. "I'm managing. Thank you for your concern." As she turned toward the kitchen, the front door opened and Elena's entire world tilted sideways. Marcus Webb walked in like he owned the place, his hand possessively on the lower back of a woman Elena had only seen in Instagram photos. Sienna Blake, 26 years old, blonde, impossibly thin, and wearing a dress that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. Elena's first instinct was to run, to hide in the kitchen or the office or anywhere Marcus wouldn't see her. But her feet were rooted to the carpet, and besides, where would she run? This was her restaurant. She belonged here more than he ever could. Marcus hadn't noticed her yet. He was too busy scanning the dining room with the critical eye of someone who'd spent the past year telling Elena that her waitressing job was embarrassing, that his colleagues' wives were doctors and lawyers and real estate agents, not women who served food for tips. Jessica approached them with menus, her professional smile bright. "Good evening. Do you have a reservation?" "Webb, 2 for dinner," Marcus said, his voice carrying that particular tone of self-importance that Elena had once found charming. Now it just sounded petty. "Right this way." Jessica led them toward the center of the dining room, toward a table that would give them a perfect view of the entire restaurant, including Elena, who was still standing frozen near table 7. her tray pressed against her rounded belly. That's when Marcus saw her. His expression cycled through surprise, recognition, and then something that looked uncomfortably like satisfaction. He leaned down to whisper something to Sienna, who turned to stare at Elena with undisguised curiosity. Elena forced herself to move, to walk toward the kitchen with as much dignity as she could muster, while 8 months pregnant and wearing sensible shoes that squeaked slightly on the tile. She could feel their eyes on her back, could imagine the conversation they were having. "Is that her?" Sienna's voice carried across the dining room, loud enough that nearby diners looked up. "Is that your ex-wife?" Elena reached the kitchen doors and pushed through, letting them swing shut behind her. The noise of the kitchen, sizzling pans, shouted orders, the industrial dishwasher's rumble, provided temporary sanctuary. "Elena?" Carlos, the head chef and one of the few people who knew her real identity, looked up from the stovetop. "You okay? You look pale." "I'm fine." She set down her tray with shaking hands. "My ex-husband just walked in." Carlos's expression darkened. "The pendejo who divorced you when you were 6 months pregnant? That ex-husband?" "That's the one." Elena leaned against the counter, pressing her hand to her lower back. The baby was kicking more insistently now, as if sensing her mother's distress. "He's with his new girlfriend." "You want me to have them removed?" Carlos's hand moved toward the knife block, and despite everything, Elena almost smiled. "No, I want you to make them the best meal they've ever had." She straightened, feeling something steel settle in her spine. "And I want you to make sure Mario knows they're here." Carlos studied her face, then nodded slowly. "You're sure about this?" "I'm sure." Elena took a deep breath and pushed back through the kitchen doors. Marcus and Sienna were settled at their table, and as Elena approached with water glasses and menus, she heard Sienna's voice again, pitched just loud enough to carry. "I can't believe she's still waitressing. And pregnant? God, how desperate do you have to be?" Marcus's response was quieter, but Elena caught the words, "poor decisions," and "refused to better herself." Elena set down the water glasses with steady hands, her face professionally blank. "Good evening. My name is Elena, and I'll be your server tonight. Can I start you with something from the bar?" Sienna looked up at her with eyes that sparkled with malicious amusement. "Oh my God, Marcus. You didn't tell me your ex-wife worked here. How quaint." "Sienna." Marcus's tone held a warning, but his eyes flickered with something that looked uncomfortably like embarrassment. Not for himself, for Elena. "What? I'm just saying it must be hard working on your feet in your condition." Sienna's smile was knife-sharp. "Especially when you could have had such an easy life if you'd just been more supportive of Marcus's career." If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from. I love hearing from you. Elena's hand tightened on her order pad, but her voice remained calm. "Can I interest you in our signature cocktails? Or perhaps a bottle of wine from our reserve collection?" Wine. Sienna didn't even look at the menu. "Something expensive. Marcus is celebrating a big sale today, aren't you, baby?" Marcus shifted uncomfortably. "Sienna, maybe we should—" "A $2 million property in Beverly Hills?" Sienna continued, her voice rising. "We're going to Cabo next month to celebrate. First-class tickets, 5-star resort. The kind of lifestyle some people will never understand." She looked pointedly at Elena's swollen belly, at her sensible shoes, at the order pad in her hand. I'll give you a few minutes to look over the menu, Elena said quietly, turning to leave. Wait. Sienna's voice stopped her. I have a question. How much do you make in tips on a good night? The dining room had gone quiet. Elena could feel other diners watching, waiting to see how this would play out. That's not really appropriate, Marcus started, but Sienna waved him off. I'm just curious. I mean, Marcus told me you two used to fight about money constantly. You were always worried about bills, about saving for the future. And now look at you, single, pregnant, serving tables. Sienna's laugh was bright and cruel. I guess some people are just meant to serve, you know. Elena felt her daughter kick hard against her ribs, as if in protest. She looked at Marcus, really looked at him, and saw a man who'd once promised to love her through anything. Now he sat silently while his girlfriend humiliated her in a restaurant full of strangers. I'll send someone to take your order, Elena said, her voice perfectly controlled. As she walked away, she heard Sienna's stage whisper. Can you imagine being that pathetic? God, Marcus, you really traded up. Elena made it to the kitchen before her composure cracked. She leaned against the wall, breathing deeply, feeling tears threaten. 4 months. 4 months since Marcus had served her with divorce papers, claiming he couldn't be tied to someone with no ambition and no prospects. 4 months since he told her that waitressing was beneath his status, that he needed a partner who could elevate him socially. 4 months since she'd decided to let him believe the lie. Elena, Mario Rodriguez, appeared in the kitchen doorway, his salt and pepper hair immaculate, his suit perfectly tailored. At 63, he still carried himself with the authority of a man who'd spent 40 years in the hospitality industry. Carlos called me. He said there's a situation. Mario was her father's oldest friend, the man who'd helped Elena learn the business after the accident, the general manager of Casa Mariposa, and one of the few people who knew exactly who owned it. My ex-husband is here, Elena said quietly, with his new girlfriend. They're at table 12. Mario's expression hardened. The one who divorced you for being a waitress? That's him. And he doesn't know. He has no idea. Elena wiped her eyes, straightening her shoulders. And his girlfriend is currently explaining to the entire dining room how pathetic I am. Mario was quiet for a moment, studying her face. Then he smiled, and it was the kind of smile that had terrified competitors and inspired loyalty in equal measure. Elena, my dear, I think it's time we had a conversation with your guests. Mario, I don't trust me. He adjusted his tie, his eyes gleaming with something that looked like anticipation. This is going to be very satisfying. Elena followed him back into the dining room, her heart pounding. Marcus and Sienna were studying their menus, Sienna still talking loudly enough that nearby tables could hear every word. And Marcus says she used to complain about his spending. Can you imagine? He makes over $100,000 a year, and she acted like they were poor. Some people have no concept of how to live well. Mario stopped at their table, his hands clasped behind his back. Good evening. I'm Mario Rodriguez, the general manager of Casa Mariposa. I understand you're celebrating tonight? Marcus looked up, and Elena saw recognition flicker across his face. She'd brought Marcus here once, early in their marriage, and Mario had been polite but distant. Marcus had assumed Mario didn't like him. He'd been right, but for reasons Marcus had never understood. Yes, Sienna answered before Marcus could speak. My boyfriend just closed a huge deal. We're celebrating how far he's come since he divorced his first wife. She gestured casually toward Elena, who stood slightly behind Mario. Speaking of which, you should really talk to your waitress about appropriate workplace boundaries. She made things very uncomfortable. Mario's expression didn't change. I apologize if there was any discomfort. However, I should clarify something. He paused, and Elena saw him fighting back a smile. Elena isn't violating any boundaries. In fact, she has absolute authority over every aspect of this establishment. Marcus frowned. I don't understand. Allow me to be clear. Mario's voice carried across the now silent dining room. Elena Rodriguez isn't just a waitress here. She's the owner of Casa Mariposa. The sole owner, in fact, along with 46 other properties in the Rodriguez Hospitality Group. The silence that followed was absolute. Sienna's face went pale, then red. Marcus simply stared, his mouth opening and closing without sound. The Rodriguez Hospitality Group, Mario continued, his tone conversational, currently operates properties valued at approximately $340 million. Ms. Rodriguez inherited the company from her parents 4 years ago and has successfully expanded operations by 32% during her tenure as CEO. Elena watched Marcus's face as the words landed. Watched him calculate, remember, realize. Every argument about money, every complaint about her lack of ambition, every time he'd belittled her job or suggested she should find real work. That's impossible, Marcus finally managed. Elena worked as a waitress. We lived in a small apartment. She drove a used car. She chose to live modestly, Mario interrupted smoothly. Ms. Rodriguez prefers to understand her business from the ground up. She works shifts in her restaurants to maintain perspective, to ensure quality, to connect with staff and customers. He smiled. It's actually quite brilliant management strategy. Sienna found her voice. You're lying. She's just a waitress. Marcus told me. Marcus told you what Elena allowed him to believe, Mario replied. Now, if you'll excuse us, Ms. Rodriguez needs to rest. As you noted, she's quite pregnant and has been on her feet for several hours, ensuring that ungrateful guests like yourselves receive excellent service. He turned to Elena, his voice gentling. Your office, I think. I'll have Carlos send up some dinner, and that herbal tea you like. Elena nodded, not trusting her voice. As she walked toward the back stairs that led to the private offices above the restaurant, she heard Sienna's rising voice. This is a joke. This has to be a joke. Marcus, tell them, but Marcus wasn't saying anything. He was staring at Elena's retreating figure with an expression of dawning horror that would have been satisfying if it didn't hurt quite so much. The office was exactly as she'd left it that morning. Organized chaos with spreadsheets covering the desk, fabric samples for the new San Francisco property draped over the chair, and photographs of potential sites for expansion pinned to the wall. Through the window, she could see the parking lot, and beyond it, the Los Angeles skyline beginning to glow with evening lights. Elena sank into her chair, finally allowing herself to feel the exhaustion, the hurt, the strange satisfaction of having her secret finally revealed. Her daughter kicked again, and Elena placed both hands on her belly. Well, mija, she whispered, your father just learned that he divorced a very wealthy woman because he thought she was poor. I wonder how long before he tries to apologize. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Elena, please, we need to talk. I didn't know. I never knew. Please let me explain. Marcus. Elena stared at the message for a long moment, then set her phone face down on the desk. Some explanations came too late to matter. The morning sun cast long shadows across Elena's bedroom in the Century City penthouse she'd called home for the past 4 months. The home Marcus had never seen, never known existed. She stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows, one hand pressed to the small of her aching back, watching the city wake below her. From this height, Los Angeles looked manageable, contained, like something she could hold in the palm of her hand. Her phone had been vibrating constantly since last night. 23 missed calls from Marcus, 14 text messages ranging from desperate to angry to pleading. She'd read the first few, then stopped. "I didn't know you were rich. We can fix this. Sienna means nothing. It was a mistake. Our baby deserves both parents. Let's talk. You lied to me for our entire marriage. How is that fair?" That last one had made her laugh, a bitter sound that startled her. Fair. Marcus Webb, who'd divorced his pregnant wife because her job embarrassed him, wanted to discuss fairness. Elena moved away from the window and lowered herself carefully onto the chaise lounge that cost more than the entire furniture set in the apartment she'd shared with Marcus. Her daughter, she'd started thinking of her as Isabella, though she hadn't told anyone yet, was awake and moving, pressing against Elena's ribs in a way that was uncomfortable but also reassuring. Proof that despite everything, something beautiful was coming from the wreckage. Her laptop sat open on the coffee table, showing the security footage from Casa Mariposa last night. She'd watched it 3 times already, studying Marcus's face when Mario revealed the truth. The shock, the disbelief, the calculation that had flickered across his features once the initial surprise faded. She recognized that expression, the same one he'd worn when evaluating properties, determining their worth, deciding whether an investment would pay off. Marcus Webb was calculating whether Elena Rodriguez was worth pursuing again. Her phone rang. Not Marcus this time, but Rebecca Chen, her best friend since college and the company's VP of operations. Elena answered on the second ring. "Please tell me you've seen the video," Rebecca said, without preamble. "What video?" "Someone at Casa Mariposa filmed the whole thing last night. Your ex-husband's girlfriend mocking you, Mario's reveal, all of it. It's on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. Elena, you're viral." Elena's stomach dropped. How viral? 3 million views and climbing. The comments are, well, they're mostly supportive of you. People are calling Sienna Blake everything from a gold digger to a spoiled brat. Marcus isn't faring much better. Someone dug up his real estate license and left 1-star reviews on every platform. "Rebecca, I didn't want this to become public." "I know, honey. But it's too late now. The internet has decided you're their hero, the pregnant woman who got the ultimate revenge on her superficial ex. TMZ is calling you the secret restaurant heiress." Rebecca paused. "Have you looked at the company's social media?" "No. Why?" "Our Instagram gained 200,000 followers overnight. People want to eat at Elena's restaurants. Reservations at Casa Mariposa are booked solid for the next 2 months. This is either going to be a PR nightmare or the best free advertising we've ever had." Elena closed her eyes, feeling Isabella kick insistently. "Set up a meeting with the PR team. And Rebecca?" "Yeah?" "Find out who posted that video. I want to know if it was a guest or someone on staff." After hanging up, Elena pulled up TikTok on her phone. The video appeared immediately on her feed, posted by an account called LA Foodie with the caption, "When you mock the pregnant waitress, but she owns the restaurant karma is served." The footage was clear, shot from a table close enough to catch every word. Elena watched herself approach Marcus's table, watched Sienna's cruel laughter. watched her own professional composure in the face of public humiliation. Then Mario's entrance, his revelation, and the beautiful moment when understanding crashed across Marcus's face like a wave. The comments were brutal. She's pregnant and he's out with another woman? Men are trash. The way she kept her composure. Queen behavior. Marcus really fumbled a billionaire because she wore sensible shoes to work. Sienna Blake thinking 2 MMs in real estate sales is impressive when his ex owns a $340 million company. I'm booking a reservation at Casa Mariposa right now. Elena scrolled through hundreds more, feeling a strange mix of vindication and violation. She'd kept her identity private for so long, moving through the world as just Elena, not Elena Rodriguez, heiress to a hospitality empire. Now millions of strangers knew her story, had opinions about her marriage, were dissecting her life for entertainment. Her doorbell rang, the private elevator that required a key card to access. Only 3 people had that card: Rebecca, Mario, and her building's concierge. Elena checked the security camera and saw Mario standing in the hallway, carrying a garment bag and what looked like a bakery box. She buzzed him in. "You're on the internet," Mario said by way of greeting, setting the bakery box on her kitchen counter. "The entire internet," Rebecca told me. "The entire hospitality industry is talking about you. I've gotten calls from 5 different trade publications wanting interviews. The Food Network wants to discuss a show, and..." He opened the garment bag, revealing a beautiful navy blue dress. "Your grandmother called." Elena's stomach dropped for a different reason. "Abuela called?" She saw the video. Apparently someone's grandson sent it to her with the message, "Isn't this your granddaughter?" Mario pulled out the dress, examining it critically. "She's flying in from Mexico City tonight and wants to have dinner with you tomorrow. She specifically requested you wear something appropriate for the occasion, which I'm interpreting as not your waitress uniform. I haven't spoken to Abuela in 6 months." Elena sank onto a bar stool. "Not since I told her about the divorce." "Well, she's speaking to you now. She made reservations at Republique for 7 o'clock and informed me, not asked, informed, that I would ensure you arrived on time and properly dressed." Mario smiled slightly. "Your grandmother hasn't lost her touch." Elena accepted the tea Mario prepared, grateful for something to do with her hands. Carmen Rodriguez was 82 years old and more formidable than most CEOs half her age. She'd helped her husband build the Rodriguez Hospitality Group from a single diner in Guadalajara, had immigrated to Los Angeles in 1968 with 3 children and $500, had survived her husband's death and her son's death, and still ran the charitable foundation, bearing their name with an iron fist. She was also the only person who'd told Elena not to marry Marcus Webb. "He doesn't see you, mija," Carmen had said 3 years ago, watching Marcus check his phone during their engagement dinner. "He sees a pretty waitress he thinks he can save. What happens when he discovers you don't need saving?" Elena had been too in love to listen. Now she wondered if her grandmother felt vindicated or just sad. "There's something else," Mario said quietly. "Marcus showed up at Casa Mariposa this morning at 6 a.m. He was waiting when I arrived to meet with the breakfast shift." Elena's teacup paused halfway to her lips. "What did he want?" "To talk to you. To explain. To fix things before they got out of hand." Mario's expression was carefully neutral. "I told him you weren't available and suggested he contact your attorney if he needed to discuss matters related to your daughter." How did he react? Like a man who just realized he threw away a winning lottery ticket. Mario pulled out his phone and showed Elena a photo. Marcus slumped against his BMW in Casa Mariposa's parking lot, his face haggard. He sat in his car for 2 hours before finally leaving. Security said he kept staring at the restaurant like he was trying to understand how he missed something so obvious. Elena studied the photo, feeling nothing but a distant sort of pity. He didn't miss it. I hid it. I wanted someone to love me for who I was, not what I owned. And instead, you found someone who left you for who you weren't. The words were harsh but true. Elena had spent 3 years of marriage pretending to be someone smaller, quieter, less powerful than she actually was. She'd worked shifts at her own restaurants and come home to an apartment she could have bought with cash, all to maintain an illusion of normalcy. And Marcus had divorced her anyway, for not being ambitious enough. "What should I do?" she asked. Mario was quiet for a moment. "What do you want to do?" "I want to raise my daughter in peace. I want to run my company without my personal life becoming a circus. I want—" Elena stopped, pressing her hand to her belly as Isabella kicked hard. "I want to not feel like an idiot for trusting the wrong person." "Then let your attorneys handle Marcus and focus on what matters." Mario checked his watch. "You have a conference call with the San Francisco development team in an hour, a meeting with the PR firm at 2, and dinner with your grandmother tomorrow. Plus, you're 8 months pregnant and should probably be resting instead of working." "I'm fine." "Elena," Mario's voice gentled, "you're not fine. You were publicly humiliated by your ex-husband. Your private life is now viral content, and you're growing a human being while running a multi-million-dollar company. It's okay to not be fine." Elena felt tears threaten and blinked them back fiercely. Pregnancy hormones made everything feel more intense, more raw. "If I stop moving, I'll start thinking. And if I start thinking about how Marcus looked at me last night, not with love or regret, but like I was a mistake he needed to correct, I don't think I can handle it." "Then don't think about Marcus. Think about your daughter, your company, your future." Mario moved toward the door. "And maybe think about the fact that Marcus Webb spent 3 years married to one of the most extraordinary women I know. And he was too blind to see it. That's his loss, Elena, not yours." After Mario left, Elena stood at her windows again, watching the city move below her. Somewhere out there, Marcus was probably crafting another apology, another explanation. Sienna was probably dealing with her own viral infamy. Elena had seen the comments calling her shallow, cruel, entitled. And millions of strangers were discussing Elena's marriage like it was a television show. Her phone buzzed. Another message from Marcus. "I know you don't want to talk to me, but please think about Isabella. She deserves to know her father. We can work this out if you'll just give me a chance to explain." Using their daughter's name, the name Elena had only shared with him in a moment of vulnerability 2 months ago, before the divorce was final, felt like a violation, like Marcus was trying to use Isabella as leverage. Elena's fingers moved across the keyboard before she could second-guess herself. "Isabella deserves a father who valued her mother. You made it clear I wasn't worth your time when I was just a waitress. The fact that I own restaurants doesn't change who I am. I'm the same person you found embarrassing. The only thing that changed is your interest level." She hit send and immediately blocked his number. The rest of the day passed in a blur of conference calls and strategic meetings. The PR team advised leaning into the viral moment, posting thoughtful content about working in her own restaurants, maybe even doing an interview to control the narrative. The San Francisco development team had concerns about permits and zoning. The finance department wanted to discuss Q3 projections. By 6 p.m., Elena was exhausted. Her feet were swollen despite wearing slippers all day. Her back ached, and Isabella was practicing what felt like kickboxing against her internal organs. She ordered dinner from one of her own restaurants. Ironically, Casa Mariposa, because Carlos made the best chicken mole in the city, and settled onto her couch with her laptop. The video had gained another 2 million views. Someone had created a TikTok duet, showing split-screen reaction faces as Mario revealed Elena's identity. Another user had made an expectation versus reality video using Sienna's mocking laughter against footage of Casa Mariposa's elegant interior and reviews, calling it one of LA's best restaurants. But it was the comments that caught Elena's attention. My boyfriend did something similar. Told me I wasn't ambitious enough. Then found out I owned the company he was trying to get hired at. Men always think they're trading up until they realize what they lost. Elena, if you see this, you're an inspiration. Building an empire while pregnant and dealing with a terrible ex, that's strength. I worked as a server for 10 years while building my business. People treated me like I was nothing. Never let them see you coming, ladies. The way she stayed professional, even while being humiliated, that's real class. Marcus and Sienna could never. Elena closed her laptop, feeling something shift in her chest. For 3 years, she'd hidden who she really was, afraid that showing her true self would cost her the love she wanted. Instead, hiding herself had cost her everything anyway. Tomorrow, she'd face her grandmother. Tomorrow, she'd figure out how to turn viral fame into something productive for her company. Tomorrow, she'd start making plans for single motherhood and raising a daughter who would never have to choose between being powerful and being loved. But tonight, she allowed herself to feel the full weight of her choices, the good ones and the mistakes, and to acknowledge that while Marcus Webb had underestimated her, she'd underestimated herself. Her phone lit up with a message from Rebecca. Restaurant Week just called. They want Casa Mariposa as the featured venue for their spring campaign. Apparently being a viral sensation has its perks. Should I tell them yes? Elena smiled despite her exhaustion. Tell them yes. And Rebecca, thank you for not saying I told you so about Marcus. The response came immediately. Oh, honey, I'm absolutely going to say I told you so, just not until after you give birth. I'm not a monster. As Elena finally allowed herself to rest, Isabella settled into a quieter rhythm, her movements gentler. Through the windows, Los Angeles glittered with possibility, and for the first time in months, Elena felt something that might have been hope. Marcus Webb thought he'd traded up by leaving her. Soon, he'd learn exactly how wrong he was. Republique was one of those Los Angeles institutions that existed at the intersection of old-world elegance and modern celebrity culture. The converted 1929 building on La Brea had once been Charlie Chaplin's office, and now it served French-inspired cuisine to a clientele that included everyone from studio executives to actual French diplomats who claimed it was the closest thing to Paris they had found west of the Mississippi. Elena arrived exactly on time, wearing the navy dress Mario had selected, and low heels that were already making her swollen feet protest. The maitre d' recognized her immediately, not from the viral video, but because the Rodriguez family had been dining here for decades. Ms. Rodriguez, your grandmother is already seated. Right this way. Carmen Rodriguez sat at the best table in the house, the one tucked into a corner with sight lines to the entire restaurant, but positioned to offer privacy. At 82, she wore her silver hair in an elegant chignon, her black dress simple but clearly expensive, and her posture so straight it made Elena feel like a slouching teenager. Mija, Carmen stood with surprising grace, embracing Elena carefully, mindful of her pregnant belly. "You look tired." "I am tired, abuela." "Sit. We'll order, then we'll talk about why your face is all over the internet like some telenovela character." Elena sat, accepting the menu with a rueful smile. Her grandmother had always had a way of cutting through pretense with surgical precision. It was one of the qualities that had made her such a formidable businesswoman and such a terrifying matriarch. "The duck is excellent tonight," Carmen said, studying her own menu. "And you need protein. That baby is taking everything from you. I can see it in your face." "Abuela, don't abuela me. You're 8 months pregnant, running a company, and dealing with that idiota you married showing up on social media. You need to eat." Carmen set down her menu with finality. "We'll both have the duck, and sparkling water for you, wine for me, because I'm old and I've earned it." The waiter took their order and disappeared. Carmen folded her hands on the table and fixed Elena with the look that had reduced grown men to nervous stammering. "Now, tell me why you thought it was a good idea to let Marcus Webb believe you were poor." Elena took a breath. "I wanted someone to love me for myself. Not for the restaurants, not for the money, not for what I could give them. Just me. And you thought pretending to be someone else was the way to achieve that?" "I thought if I showed him who I really was, gradually, after he'd already fallen in love with me, it wouldn't matter. But it did matter." Carmen's voice was gentle now. "Because you didn't marry someone who loved you, mija. You married someone who loved the idea of you, and the idea he had was wrong from the beginning." Elena felt tears threaten. "I know that now." "Do you?" Carmen leaned forward. "Because from what I saw in that video—" "Yes, I watched it 3 times. Your cousin Miguel wouldn't stop sending it. You still seemed surprised when Marcus showed his true colors. Like you thought maybe, underneath it all, he was a good man who'd made a mistake. He is Isabella's father. Being a father is more than biology, mija. It's about showing up, being present, making sacrifices." Carmen's expression hardened. "Marcus Webb divorced you when you were 6 months pregnant because your job embarrassed him. That's not a good man. That's a shallow boy in a man's body." Their food arrived, and for several minutes they ate in silence. The duck was perfectly prepared, tender and flavorful, but Elena barely tasted it. Her mind was replaying the past 24 hours, the video, the messages from Marcus, the strange sensation of having her private pain become public entertainment. "Your grandfather," Carmen said suddenly. "When I met him, he had nothing. I had my father's restaurant, a good business, regular customers. Mario thought I would never look at him twice because he was just a line cook with big dreams." Elena had heard this story before, but she stayed quiet, sensing her grandmother had more to say. "But Mario didn't pretend to be something he wasn't. He told me, go, Carmen, I'm poor now, but I won't always be. I want to build something with you, not take what you've already built." Carmen's eyes grew distant. "That's partnership, Elena, not a man who wants to rescue you, or a man who wants you to rescue him. A man who wants to build something together. Marcus said he wanted to build a life with me. No. Marcus wanted you to fit into the life he'd already imagined. And when you didn't fit, when your job didn't match his fantasy, he threw you away like a broken dish." Carmen set down her fork. "The question is, what are you going to do about it now? What can I do? The divorce is final. He's with someone else. I'm focused on Isabella and the company. You can stop letting him back in? Carmen pulled out her phone. She'd finally learned to use one last year, though she claimed it was a ridiculous device for people who can't remember anything, and showed Elena a screenshot. This was posted an hour ago. It was Marcus's Instagram account. A photo of a sonogram, Isabella's sonogram, the one from Elena's 20-week appointment. The caption read, "Excited to be a father soon. No matter what's happened between her mother and me, this little girl is my world. Can't wait to meet you, Isabella. That's our daddy love, it's our family first." Elena felt rage burn through her exhaustion. He wasn't even at that appointment. He said he had a showing he couldn't reschedule. But he has the photo, which means at some point, you shared it with him. And now he's using your daughter as a prop for social media sympathy. Carmen's voice was ice. This is what I mean, mija. Marcus isn't trying to reconcile because he loves you. He's trying to salvage his public image. 3 million people think he's a fool who threw away a fortune. He needs to look like a caring father to save face. Elena pulled out her own phone and looked at the post. The comments were divided. Give this man a break. Everyone makes mistakes. At least he's trying to be there for his daughter. This is performative BS. Where was this energy when he was divorcing his pregnant wife? Men will literally weaponize their own children for sympathy instead of just admitting they messed up. Elena, if you see this, run. This man is not safe. He's trying to manipulate you back into his life. As a father of 3, I can tell you that posting sonograms on social media while your ex is going viral is calculated AF. He's not thinking about the baby. He's thinking about himself. What should I do? Elena asked, her voice small. Carmen was quiet for a long moment, studying her granddaughter's face. You should remember who you are. Not Marcus's ex-wife. Not a viral video. You are Elena Rodriguez, heir to an empire your grandfather built with his bare hands. You are a businesswoman who expanded that empire by 32% in 4 years. You are a woman strong enough to work on her feet at 8 months pregnant because she wanted to understand her business from every angle. She reached across the table and took Elena's hand. And you are a mother who will raise a daughter to never, ever settle for less than she deserves. So what you do is this. You block Marcus on every platform. You have your attorneys draft a custody agreement that protects Isabella from being used as a prop. You run your company, you have your baby, and you show the world that what Marcus thought was your weakness was actually your greatest strength. Elena squeezed her grandmother's hand, feeling something solid settle in her chest. He's going to fight me on custody. Let him. You have resources he can't imagine. More importantly, you have documentation. Text messages where he complained about your job. Divorce papers he filed while you were pregnant. His complete absence from your prenatal appointments. Carmen smiled, sharp as a knife. Marcus Webb picked a fight with the wrong family. It's time he learned that lesson. Their waiter approached with dessert menus, but Carmen waved him off. Just coffee for me, and herbal tea for my granddaughter. The baby doesn't need caffeine. After he left, Elena said quietly, I loved him, Abuela. I really did. And part of me still wants to believe that somewhere in there is the man I thought I married. I know, mija, but wanting someone to be good doesn't make them good. And loving someone who can't love you back doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. Carmen's expression softened. But now you know better. So now you do better. Elena's phone vibrated. A text from Rebecca. Marcus's girlfriend just posted something. You need to see this. Elena opened Instagram and navigated to Sienna Blake's account. The most recent post was a photo of Sienna and Marcus at what looked like a jewelry store. Sienna's hand extended to show off an enormous diamond ring. The caption, "When you know, you know." Some people are meant to build futures together. #engaged, #love wins, #moving forward. The comments were vicious. "Girl, he literally just divorced his pregnant wife. You think you're special? This is messy as hell and you both look desperate. The way y'all are trying to save face after that restaurant video, embarrassing." Marcus really said, "I need to look stable," and bought a ring. "Sienna, honey, you're a rebound with a receipt." They deserve each other, TBH. Both shallow, both cruel, both about to learn a hard lesson. Carmen read over Elena's shoulder and laughed, a sound like wind chimes made of steel. "Oh, they're engaged. How romantic." I give it 6 months before she realizes that a real estate agent who makes $180,000 a year isn't the lifestyle she imagined. "That's cruel, abuela." "No, mija. Cruel is mocking a pregnant woman in a restaurant full of people. This is just observation." Carmen took a sip of her wine. "But you need to prepare yourself. This engagement is strategic. Marcus is trying to show the world he's moved on, that he's stable and committed. He's going to use that to argue for joint custody of Isabella. He can try, and a judge might be sympathetic to a man who's trying to provide a stable 2-parent household, even if that household doesn't include you." Carmen's voice was serious now. "Elena, I need you to understand something. This isn't about love anymore. This isn't even about Isabella. Not really. This is about power and public perception. Marcus lost both when that video went viral. He's going to do everything he can to get them back." Elena felt Isabella kick, as if her daughter was responding to the tension in her mother's body. She placed both hands on her belly, protective and determined. "Then I'll fight him." "Good." Carmen signaled for the check. "Now, let's talk about real strategy. Tomorrow you're going to hold a press conference. You're going to tell your story, not as a victim, but as a successful businesswoman who's focused on her company and her daughter. You're going to announce a new initiative, maybe a scholarship fund for hospitality workers, or a program to support pregnant women in the service industry." "Abuela, I don't think—" "You don't have to think. I'm telling you what you're going to do." Carmen's smile was fierce. "Marcus wants a PR battle? We'll give him one, but we'll fight on our terms, with our resources. And when we're done, he'll understand that leaving you wasn't just stupid. It was the biggest mistake of his life." As they left the restaurant, Elena felt her phone buzzing in her purse. More messages, more notifications, more strangers weighing in on her life. But walking beside her grandmother, feeling the solid certainty of family behind her, Elena realized something important. Marcus had married someone he thought was weak, someone he could control and eventually discard, but he'd actually married Elena Rodriguez, granddaughter of Carmen Rodriguez, heir to an empire built on steel and determination and the absolute refusal to be underestimated. And that Elena was just getting started. Outside, the Los Angeles night was warm and full of possibility. Somewhere in this city, Marcus was probably celebrating his engagement, convincing himself he'd made the right choice. Sienna was probably planning a wedding that would prove to everyone she'd won. But they'd both forgotten the most important rule of warfare. Never underestimate your opponent. Elena Rodriguez was done being underestimated. The press conference was scheduled for 10 a.m. at Casa Mariposa, giving the morning news cycle enough time to pick up the story for their noon broadcasts. Rebecca had coordinated everything with military precision. a podium in the restaurant's private event space, lighting that was flattering but not theatrical, a backdrop featuring the Rodriguez Hospitality Group logo and artistic shots of their various properties. Elena stood in the employee lounge, studying herself in the full-length mirror. She'd chosen a jade green dress that complemented her skin tone and somehow made her 8 months pregnant figure look powerful rather than vulnerable. Her hair was pulled back in a sleek bun, her makeup minimal but polished. She looked like exactly what she was, a CEO preparing to take control of her narrative. "You ready?" Rebecca appeared behind her, carrying a bottle of water and a folder containing talking points they'd rehearsed until 2 a.m. "No, but I'm doing it anyway." "That's the spirit." Rebecca handed her the water. "Remember, you're not defending yourself. You're sharing your story and announcing the initiative. Strong, confident, focused on the future. If anyone asks about Marcus, I redirect to Isabella and the foundation." "I know." Elena took a long drink of water, feeling her daughters shift and stretch. Isabella had been unusually active all morning, as if sensing the importance of the day. "Has he shown up?" "Marcus? Security spotted him in the parking lot 20 minutes ago. He doesn't have press credentials, so they're not letting him in." Rebecca checked her phone. "But Sienna posted an Instagram story from their car. They're both out there." "Of course they are." Elena placed her hand on her belly, feeling Isabella's rhythmic kicks. "Let them watch." The event space was packed when Elena walked in. Reporters from the LA Times, Hollywood Reporter, Food and Wine, and at least a dozen local stations. Cameras everywhere, phones held high to catch every moment. In the back of the room, Mario stood with arms crossed, his expression somewhere between proud and protective. Elena took her position behind the podium, adjusted the microphone, and looked out at the sea of faces. For a moment, the weight of it all threatened to overwhelm her. The scrutiny, the judgment, the knowledge that millions of people would watch this and form opinions about who she was and what she deserved. Then she thought of her grandmother's words. "You are Elena Rodriguez. Remember who you are." "Good morning. Thank you all for coming." Her voice was steady, amplified through the sound system. "My name is Elena Rodriguez, CEO of the Rodriguez Hospitality Group. Many of you know me from a video that went viral this week. But that video only shows a moment. Today, I want to share the full story." She paused, making eye contact with reporters in the front row. 3 years ago, I made a choice that some might consider unusual. I decided to work shifts in my own restaurants, to understand the business from the ground up. I wore the uniform, I served the tables, I cleaned the floors. I wanted to know what my employees experienced, to ensure we were creating not just excellent dining experiences, but also excellent working conditions. A reporter raised her hand. "Ms. Rodriguez, did your husband know about your ownership of the company?" My ex-husband was aware that my family owned restaurants. What he didn't know, what I chose not to share, was the full scope of our operations. Elena kept her voice neutral. I wanted to be loved for who I was as a person, not for what I owned. In retrospect, that decision may have been misguided, but it was mine to make. Do you regret hiding your identity? Elena considered the question. I regret that my choice to live modestly was interpreted as a lack of ambition. I regret that honest work was seen as something shameful. But I don't regret learning about my business from every perspective. That experience has made me a better leader. Another hand shot up. What about your ex-husband's engagement? How do you feel about Marcus Webb moving on so quickly? This was the trap. The question designed to make her sound bitter or vindictive or heartbroken. Elena smiled slightly. I'm focused on my daughter and my company. What my ex-husband chooses to do with his life is his business. I wish him well. The lie tasted bitter, but it served its purpose. She saw reporters scribbling notes, cameras zooming in on her face. She was giving them nothing to weaponize, no tears or anger they could turn into clickbait headlines. Today, I'm here to announce something much more important than my personal life. Elena opened the folder Rebecca had prepared. The Rodriguez Hospitality Group is launching the Isabella Future Fund, named after my daughter. This initiative will provide scholarships, training programs, and financial support to hospitality workers who are pregnant or parenting young children. The cameras flashed more insistently now. This was the story they'd actually want to cover. Not just divorce drama, but something substantive. We're starting with a $10 million endowment, Elena continued. The fund will offer paid maternity leave for hospitality workers, subsidized childcare at our properties, and educational grants for single parents pursuing hospitality management degrees. Because I believe that the woman serving your table might be brilliant, ambitious, and building something extraordinary. She just needs someone to see her potential. The room erupted with questions, but Elena held up her hand. I'll take a few more questions, but I want to be clear about something. The viral video showed a moment of public humiliation. But it also showed something else. That working in hospitality is real work, worthy of respect and dignity. That being pregnant doesn't make a woman less capable or less valuable. And that judging someone based on their job title is a mistake that says more about you than it does about them. Ms. Rodriguez, a reporter near the back stood. Your ex-husband is outside the building. Would you be willing to speak with him? Elena felt her heart rate spike, but her expression remained calm. I have nothing to say to my ex-husband that can't be communicated through our attorneys. My focus is on preparing for my daughter's arrival and ensuring the Isabella Future Fund launches successfully. But he's saying he was deceived. That you lied about your background throughout your marriage. Don't you think he deserves an explanation? The question came from a tabloid reporter, and Elena recognized it for what it was. Bait. She took a breath, feeling Isabella kick as if in encouragement. I told my ex-husband that my family was in the restaurant business and that I preferred to live modestly. Everything else was assumption on his part. Elena's voice remained professional, but steel crept in underneath. The only deception in our marriage was his claim to love me unconditionally, when that love apparently had conditions I didn't understand. Now, unless there are questions about the Isabella Future Fund, I think we're done here. Rebecca stepped forward smoothly. We'll be distributing press packets with details about the fund and application information. Thank you all for coming. As the reporters filed out, still shouting questions, Elena remained at the podium for a moment longer. Through the windows overlooking the parking lot, she could see Marcus's BMW. He stood beside it, his phone pressed to his ear, probably watching a live stream of the conference he hadn't been invited to attend. Mario approached, offering his arm. That was perfect. Strong, dignified, focused on the positive. Your grandmother would be proud. Abuela wrote half of it, Elena admitted, allowing him to guide her away from the podium. She called it midnight with suggestions that were really just orders. Carmen knows how to control a narrative. Mario smiled. And so do you, apparently. The scholarship fund was brilliant. You're not just the woman who got revenge on her ex-husband. You're the philanthropist, creating opportunities for vulnerable workers. They'd made it halfway to Elena's office when her phone rang. Unknown number, but the area code was local. Against her better judgment, she answered. Elena. Marcus's voice sounded ragged, desperate. Please, I'm outside. Give me 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes to talk face to face. Marcus, I have nothing to say to you. You just announced a $10 million fund named after our daughter, and you didn't think I'd want to be part of that conversation? She's my daughter too, Elena. You weren't interested in being her father when you filed for divorce. I didn't know. He stopped himself. That's not fair. You lied to me for 3 years. Elena felt anger surge through her exhaustion. I lived modestly. You assumed that meant I was poor. Those aren't the same thing, Marcus. I let you believe whatever you wanted to believe because the truth was never what mattered to you. What mattered was having a wife who fit your image of success. Elena's voice dropped lower. And when I didn't fit that image anymore, when my waitressing job embarrassed you, you threw me away. The fact that you would have kept me if you'd known about the money doesn't make you a good person, Marcus. It makes you exactly what I was afraid of finding. The silence on the other end of the line stretched long enough that Elena thought he'd hung up. Is this about Sienna? He asked finally. Because the engagement... Elena, that was a mistake. I was trying to move on, trying to prove I was fine without you, and you proposed to someone else because your pride was hurt. Elena cut him off. That's not my problem, Marcus. That's yours. We have a daughter together. We're going to be in each other's lives forever. Can't we at least try to be civil? Civil is communicating through attorneys and following whatever custody arrangement the court decides. Civil is not using Isabella's sonogram for social media sympathy. Civil is not showing up at my restaurant demanding to talk. Elena felt Isabella kick hard, as if agreeing. You made your choice when you served me with divorce papers. Now live with it. She hung up before he could respond and immediately blocked the number. Mario had waited discreetly out of earshot. But now he approached with concern clear on his face. Are you all right? No, but I will be. Elena straightened, one hand on her lower back. Is there a back exit I can use? I don't want to deal with Marcus in the parking lot. Already arranged. Carlos will drive you home in the catering van. Very inconspicuous. As Elena gathered her things from the office, her phone buzzed with a text from Rebecca. The press conference is everywhere. CNN picked it up. You're trending on Twitter, and the Isabella Future Fund website crashed from traffic. People are trying to donate. Elena, this is huge. Another text followed immediately. Also, Marcus's real estate firm just released a statement distancing themselves from his personal decisions. His boss basically threw him under the bus. Karma's working overtime today. Elena should have felt satisfied. She should have felt vindicated. Instead, she just felt tired and pregnant and ready for this day to be over. Carlos drove her home through back streets, avoiding the routes where paparazzi might be waiting. When they arrived at her building, the concierge informed her that several reporters had attempted to gain access, but had been firmly refused. There's also a delivery for you, Ms. Rodriguez. It arrived this morning. The concierge brought out a massive flower arrangement. Roses, lilies, orchids, the kind of ostentatious display that cost several $100s. The card read, "To the mother of my child. I'm sorry for everything. Let's talk. M." Elena stared at the flowers for a long moment. They were beautiful, expensive, and completely meaningless. Carlos, would you mind taking these to the staff break room at Casa Mariposa? I'm sure they'll brighten someone's day. With pleasure, Carlos hefted the arrangement with barely concealed satisfaction. Want me to accidentally drop them on the way? No, but I appreciate the thought. Alone in her penthouse finally, Elena kicked off her heels and sank onto her sofa. Through the windows, Los Angeles spread out below her. Millions of people living their lives, unaware that Elena Rodriguez was just another person trying to figure out how to move forward after everything had fallen apart. Her phone lit up with a FaceTime call. Carmen. I watched the press conference, her grandmother said without preamble. You did well. Composed, strategic, focused on the positive. Thank you, Abuela. Marcus called me. Elena sat up straighter. What? He found my number somehow. Left a voicemail asking me to convince you to give him another chance. That he made a mistake. That Isabella deserves both parents. Carmen's expression was unreadable. He also mentioned that his real estate firm is threatening to let him go because of negative publicity affecting the brand. Apparently being viral for mocking your pregnant ex-wife is bad for business. Good. Elena. Carmen's voice gentled. I know you're angry. You have every right to be. But I need you to think carefully about what comes next. What do you mean? I mean that Marcus is desperate, and desperate people are dangerous. He's lost his marriage, his reputation, possibly his career. He's going to fight for custody of Isabella, not because he wants to be a father, but because it's the only card he has left to play. Carmen leaned closer to the camera. You need to be prepared for this to get ugly. Elena pressed her hand to her belly, feeling Isabella's steady movements. How ugly? He'll paint you as vindictive, as someone who deliberately deceived him and is now using your wealth to keep him from his daughter. He'll probably claim you're an unfit mother, too focused on work, too willing to put your company before your child. Carmen's jaw tightened. I've seen men like Marcus before. When they lose, they don't accept it gracefully. They burn everything down, trying to feel powerful again. So, what should I do? You document everything. Every text, every voicemail, every flower delivery, every time he shows up uninvited. You build a case that shows his interest in Isabella only emerged after he discovered your wealth. And Mija? Carmen's expression hardened. You prepare yourself for the possibility that this isn't over. It's just beginning. After the call ended, Elena sat in the growing darkness of her living room, feeling Isabella move beneath her hands. Somewhere in this city, Marcus was probably crafting his next move. Sienna was probably realizing that an engagement ring didn't make her immune to public scrutiny. And millions of strangers were forming opinions about Elena's life without knowing the full story. But for the first time since that awful moment in the restaurant, Elena felt something like clarity. Marcus had wanted a woman who would make him look good, who would fit into his idea of success without challenging his ego. He'd found exactly that in Sienna. And soon he'd learned that relationships built on image rather than substance collapsed under the weight of reality. Elena had wanted someone to love her unconditionally, and she'd hidden who she was to test that love. She'd failed that test, but she'd learned something more valuable. That the right person wouldn't need her to be smaller or quieter or less than she was. And Isabella would grow up knowing that her mother had built something extraordinary, that she'd survived betrayal and public humiliation and had emerged stronger. Her daughter would learn that power wasn't something to apologize for, and that being underestimated was sometimes the greatest gift you could receive. Elena's phone buzzed one more time, a text from an unfamiliar number with a 412 area code. Ms. Rodriguez, My name is David Chen. I'm a family law attorney in Pittsburgh. Your grandmother suggested I contact you about representation for the coming custody proceedings. I have experience with high net worth divorces involving pregnancy and child welfare. I'd like to discuss how I can help protect you and your daughter. Please call at your convenience. Elena saved the number and typed a response. Thank you. I'll call tomorrow morning. And Mr. Chen, I want full custody. The response came quickly. Then that's what we'll fight for. Outside her windows, the city lights began to twinkle as evening settled over Los Angeles. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new battles, new attempts from Marcus to rewrite their history in his favor. But tonight, Elena Rodriguez, CEO, heiress, soon-to-be mother, allowed herself to rest. The war wasn't over, but she was finally ready to fight it. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you love this story, check out the other videos on your screen now. I think you'll really enjoy them. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next story.